Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Congratulations to all the fellows that had anniversaries. Purpose of Primetime Men's Stag Meeting is to talk about the reason to come to Alcoholics Anonymous, to describe the disease of alcoholism, not just as a word, but as a living mind-powered disease. How the disease appears and functions, so awareness of the disease is there to see and recognize. Alcoholism is called ism because it is alive and functioning and needs to be treated. We discuss here strictly the disease as it functions in each of our own personal lives, the way our behavior is this day, the way we react or look at people, places, and things. We do not talk about drunkalogs, yesterday's problems, or blaming other people. We talk only about looking inwardly, describing how self behaves in the day we're in. We do refer to steps only in describing the treatment or non-treatment of our disease today. This is not a step study meeting. We'll have a speaker who will talk about the purpose of coming to AA for approximately 25 to 30 minutes. Then we will have sharing or questions and answers. Sharing is strictly limited to 3 to 5 minutes. We want everyone to have a chance to participate. We do not allow bad language as this meeting is recorded and tapes travel all over. So I identified myself earlier as Wayne Alcoholic. And I'm grateful to God, grateful to a power greater than human power, grateful to a power greater than Wayne Kramer that helped me find a way of life that's a good life, that has produced an abundant life for me. I have relationships in my life today. I have friends. Actually, I know what being a friend is. I know how to identify a friend. I know how to be a friend. I know how to be a son. And I know how to be a brother. And I know how to be a partner. And I know how to be a husband. And I don't do these things perfectly, but I know what they are. And I do them absolutely to the best of my ability. I do them with God's help, and it's produced a pretty good life. I mean, I get to do things that I feel have some value. And I get to have the experience of being alive. I am a junkie and a drunk and stayed drunk and stayed stoned for 35 years. I was out there a long time. It worked for me for a long time. And I kept hitting these crises, and I just thought that was part of the deal, I thought it was romantic, I idolized people like Charles Bukowski and hard-drinking writers like Hemingway, I thought these guys were my heroes. William Burroughs, I would call him Uncle Bill. And I'd read these books over and over, and I wanted to be like these guys. But that didn't make me alcoholic. That didn't make me a drug addict. What made me an alcoholic and a drug addict was I liked the effect of those things when I took them into my body. They made a life tolerable for me because I just couldn't get through the day. Too much would happen, too many things would go wrong that would upset me. And as if the things that happened today weren't enough to upset me, I would also bring with me all the things that happened yesterday with me. So I had lots of stuff to be upset about. And getting high was relief. You know, Bill Wilson says there are two treatments for alcoholism. One is alcohol. It treats what's wrong with me. What's wrong with me is I can't live in my life. I can't live in the body I'm in the world that I live in. I can't live here because nothing goes the way I think it's supposed to go. I'm an expert on everything. Whatever it is, even if I don't know what it is, I'm an expert on it. You know, I watch the plumber work and I think I can do a better job than the plumber, you know. I tried to do some plumbing recently. I can't do it better than the plumber, but I still want to believe that I could do it better than the plumber. These crises, these circumstances would come up where these terrible dramas would happen, you know, and we hear plenty of it in AA, you know, and you know, I don't know, out bottom anybody else's bottom, but you know, I just thought that's how it was, you know, and I'd read, you know, Nietzsche, and he'd say, well, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. And I believed that too until I realized I wasn't getting any stronger, that all these terrible things were happening and I was just being diminished, and my life had less value and less meaning, and I cared less about you and I cared even less about me, and nothing meant anything. You know, I was just flat. And I was cynical and I was sarcastic and I didn't care about anything. And then I was exposed to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I came here under compliance. I had a wife and she said if I didn't do something about my drinking, she was going to fire me. And I went to a AA meeting and I listened to what everybody said. I said, this is pretty cool, you know. They're not judgmental, you know. They ain't pushing the God thing too much. And I read these steps. I said, shit. I said, if you really did that, that'd change your life. I mean, I wasn't interested in it, you know, but I saw that, God, if you actually went through with all that stuff. And I went on, you know, my continuing downward spiral. You know, the purpose to come here to Alcoholics Anonymous is because something's wrong with me. I have a disease. And even that I would deny. I used to think it was a choice. I would argue with people. It's a lifestyle choice, you know. I don't believe in the disease model. It's like, I don't believe in the cancer model. I don't believe in the diabetes model, you know. But I have this disease, and this disease is a recognized disease. The American Medical Association recognizes it. It's a primary disease. It's not as a result of some other thing or some other condition that I have. It's a progressive disease. It gets worse. It continues to get worse. It never gets better on its own. It's a treatable disease, not unlike diabetes or high blood pressure. There's a treatment for it. If I take the treatment, I can have a good life. Untreated, it's a fatal disease. It's a fatal condition. I come here, you know, and I get exposed to some ideas. You know, I see men at the podium talking, and I don't know what they're saying, actually. You know, I kind of hear the stories, I kind of hear the words, but I get a feeling from them, and the feeling is they seem to have found a way that life makes sense for them. And that's what I want so desperately. Man, I just want an answer, because I got more questions and I got no answers. And I read all these books, philosophy books and spiritual teaching books, and I think I'm a smart guy, I think I'm smart, and I don't have an answer for anything. I can't figure anything. I'm too cynical. I'm too sarcastic. And I'm always like, I get one position, then I go to the other position. And I'm on this side, but then I go to that side. I think, well, this could be right, but then I think this other thing could be right. See, I'm debating everything all the time in my mind. I can't never settle on anything. But I come to Alcoholics Anonymous and I see men that have changed. And I meet a fellow, I tell him, another one of these crises has happened, I tell him I'm very sick, could you help me? I've been around enough. I've heard this word surrender, and I used to think that surrender was kind of a joke, that was kind of like, we're all just kidding about that, like surrender. Yeah, I surrendered, you know what I mean? I surrendered. It's like, because I'm embarrassed by it, it's a too intimate a thing. It's too revealing to actually surrender, But I hear the word, and I start to wonder, what does that mean, and I read a little bit about it, and that I find out that a surrender in Alcoholics Anonymous is a beginning, and that the surrender that happens this out of a bottom is not something I can create, that I don't make it happen, that this happened by circumstance. This happened because people around me and events around me built to another climax, and everything blew up again. And I said, you know what, this time, I know what this is. This is what they're talking about when they talk about a bottom. That I don't have any more arguments. That I don't have any more cynicism. That I don't have any more quick remarks to slough something off. That this is me. That in that moment I saw who I really was. I wasn't a smart guy. I wasn't a cool guy. I was a loudmouth, drunken, rock and roll knucklehead. Just the kind of people I can't stand. I mean, I'll cross the street to avoid people like that. And that's who I am. That's me. I'm a drunk. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a sick man. And he said, yeah, we can help you, Wayne. And he put me in the hospital and detox and rehab. And I went to sober living. And the fellow that ran the sober living is a member of Prime Time, and he runs that house on a prime time basis, and exposed me to the message of recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous. And, unlike Bob Anderson, I didn't have to go 2.5 years. I was blessed. I was blessed, and I wanted a new life, and I wanted to change so sincerely with all my heart. It was the most important thing to me. There was nothing else. And so I was completely open-minded when I got here. And I got here and I heard some radical ideas. And a couple of the birthday guys mentioned it, I heard this radical concept that time doesn't treat alcoholism. And I thought that was a great relief to me, because this fellow that sponsors me, he has 29 years, and I'll never catch up. I won't make it, If I got to wait 29 years to be as together as he is, I'm shot. But I found out that time didn't actually treat this condition that I have, that I acquired, this disease, alcoholism. It's a mental disease. It's a mental disorder. I heard this radical idea that going to meetings didn't treat alcoholism. That I also found to be a great relief, because I would go to the meetings and I felt great at meetings. And I'd listen to the terrible stories and the dramas and really feel like this is cool. They're telling the truth. It's just like me. Maybe it's better, maybe it's worse, I don't know, but it's the truth. I hear the truth so rarely out in the world, and they're telling me the truth. I feel good. Then I leave the meeting and it kind of wore off. It was kind of like going to see a good movie. I enjoyed the movie. I was really into it. But then I go out there and I'm the same guy again, That reading the literature doesn't treat alcoholism, because I read the books, I read them. I like to read. It's one of my Simple Pleasures of Life, and I read the books, and I thought, well, this is pretty interesting stuff. It's kind of archaic, the way it's written, it's a stilted language, a little stiff, but it was good, seemed reasonable. I read it kind of like a novel, and even that, I'd hear guys hit their knees. I hit my knees in the morning. I hit my knees. Geez, that's painful. And I hit my knees, and then I pray, and then I come home at night, and I hit my knees again, And none of this made any sense to me. None of it seemed to work. But when I got here, and I started to hear there's a treatment for what's wrong with me, that I'm alcoholic, I have alcoholism. And there's a treatment in a way of life, which is actually in the literature, and I read it, and it went right through me. That I didn't even know how to read the literature, that I didn't read the literature for my life as it applied to me in my life. When I learned this trick of taking out the plural pronoun, the we, us, our, and put in me, and read this literature for me, for my life, that I am powerless over alcohol, that my life is unmanageable. It starts to have some connection to who I am. Because I have to find out what it is that's wrong with me. What is alcoholism? Like we talk about in the format of this meeting, what is the disease of alcoholism? How can I identify it in my life for me? Because if I can't identify it, then what am I applying a treatment program to? What am I treating? I was exposed to the work of Dr. Thibault. Hi, Bill. And Thibault was opened a huge door for me because he could explain to me in psychological terms what was wrong with me, how I have ego problems. I have a hard-charging ego. I have the classic, I think I'm great, I'm a big deal. Kind of work I do, I work real hard to stand in front of 1,000 or 2,000 people and insist that they love me. I have ego problems. And on the other side of that, I'm depressive. I think I'm not worth it. I'm unworthy. One of the birthday guys, Brendan, said he wouldn't share because he didn't feel like he deserved it. That's my story too. I don't really deserve, anything good that happens. And I get whipsawed back and forth between the hard charger and the depressive, and I can't stand it. That's why I drink. I'm starting to see a little bit about how the disease works. Dr. Thibault talks about ego factors, that I'm grandiose. It's not hard for me to see in me. I'm looking inward now. I'm looking inside me, looking at my life. How do I live my life? And I'm grandiose. I have great opinions about things, and I think everyone should think well of me. I'm a people pleaser on a mega scale, And when they don't, you can't criticize me. I'm thin-skinned. If you criticize me, like when I was a boy and the kids would start with the dozens, we were going to fight because I couldn't handle it. I couldn't take the teasing, And today in my work, the kind of work I do, they write about it sometimes in the paper, and sometimes writers don't like my work. It's their right. They're critics. That's their business. They don't have to like it. And it used to tear me up. It would tear me up. I couldn't understand, why they didn't dig my work, And now I can see that I'm grandiose. That's grandiosity. I think I'm better than everybody else. That's what I really think inside me. I really do. I'm defiant. Thibault talks about defiance. I think I know more certainly about music, art, politics, and I just like the debate. I like to prove that I know more. Even about the program of recovery. I think I'm so smart. I'm impatient. It's the other thing Thibault talked about. So he, and that's easy. We talk about that a lot around here, in the line at the supermarket. I mean, we all stand in the line I stand in the line at the supermarket, and maybe I'm counting the items that the person in front of me has, or the line is just not moving fast enough for me, The traffic light doesn't change fast enough for me. See, when I look at these simple examples, from my life, I have to look inward. This is for me. I'm doing this. And I come here for me. My life is at stake. The rate I was going, I ain't gonna make it. I have to change. That's why I came here. I gotta change. And you're telling me, Alcoholics Anonymous is telling me, every alcoholic sober today is telling me it's possible I could change. And they have a method. They have a method in steps. And one step follows the other. And they have a power called God. And with those two things, I can change. In the 12th step, as a result of these steps, I had a spiritual awakening. To find out just a little bit about what was wrong with me was enough to get started. Just to scratch the surface. Just to see that I'm not talking about drinking and drugs. This is not about drinking and drugs. I'm in AA now. I'm not drinking. I'm not getting high. So what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me is my mind has been aberrated over the course of my life. I've damaged my ability to think to good purpose. In step one, when we say glass in hand, I warped my mind. That means that over the course of my life, by doing things my way, on my schedule, according to my whims or my needs, I started to get twisted ideas. I started to get an unreasoned distortion of perception. I didn't see things the way they were. I saw things the way I wanted to see them. I saw things the way my mind told me they were. If I saw somebody that had something I wanted, like somebody in business, then I saw a cool guy. The guy could have been a complete jerk, but it didn't matter. I saw a cool guy. I wanted something from him. If I saw, I might hear something and I have an opinion about it. I don't like the way it sounds. It's the way I hear it. It's the way I see things. That I have to find out what this disease is, because just like the mechanic, if he doesn't know anything about car motors, and I take my car to him, he can't fix it. If he doesn't know anything about compression or air-gas flow or exhaust or timing, how could he fix a motor? Well, here I am in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm damaged, I'm broken, I've got this condition, I've acquired the disease of alcoholism. I have accepted it, I know it's true, I know it's a fact, I have empirical evidence. There's no doubt in my mind, I'm alcoholic. I have this disease. My entire life illustrates it. That there's principles that we talk about. There's a vocabulary in Alcoholics Anonymous, and you hear it from now till forever, over and over and over again. And this vocabulary revolves around words that we call principles. Principles are essential truths from which all truths come from. And in that first step, there's principles. The principle that I can't drink anymore, that I'm powerless over alcohol and drugs. That's a principle. AA's 12 steps are a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which, if applied as a way of life, expel the obsession to drink and allow the sufferer to become happy and usefully whole. The key there is applied as a way of life. AA is not a diet that I'm going to come and I'm going to learn some stuff and I'm going to get okay and then I'm going to go back out there. AA doesn't modify me. I'm beyond modification. I'm damaged. I don't get undamaged. I will be alcoholic all my life. When I die, they put me in the ground or they sprinkle me in the wind, I'll be done with my alcoholism. But I get a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition, contingent on living by principles. Principles that are not my principles, principles that have been hammered out on an anvil of experience of alkies from the beginning of AA on principles that go back before AA. You know, these principles that we talk about in AA aren't exclusive to Alcoholics Anonymous. We didn't invent them. They've been handed down by the great faiths. They've been hammered out in reality, evolutionarily, over the course of time. These principles of acceptance, the principle of humility, the principle of rigorous honesty, self-honesty. These living by these principles, using these principles in my life, not working steps, not reading a step with my sponsor, not talking about it on the phone, but using it as I live my life, produce a good life. They produce a manageable life. In step one, you know, that I come here and I grasp a hold of Alcoholics Anonymous like a drowning man does a life preserver. I mean, that's where I have to be. I have to go all the way down. There can be no reservation. I can't come here and say, man, this sounds pretty good. I'll do this for a while, you know, because that ends up being a bigger block to my recovery, a bigger block to change than if I just go blow it all out. Dr. Thibault talks about compliance versus surrender. So I get a handle on it. You know, I come here and I hear about this first step, that I've hit a bottom, that my life is unmanageable by me. And I would be lost and depressed, and I'd even be worse, except that's just the beginning. That when I go to step two, that I came to believe in a power greater than Wayne Kramer that could restore me to sanity. See, I never knew that I was the prime mover in my own life. I thought it was luck or fate or other people. If I just knew the right people, I'd be okay. But, you know, I don't seem to meet the right people. I used to wonder, you know, I'd be sitting in a tenement apartment on the Lower East Side of Manhattan with no electricity and the candle, shooting dope by candlelight, and wonder why nobody wanted to be in business with me. I'm such a genius. Couldn't figure it out. I couldn't think to good purpose. I couldn't see it. That this is part of what's wrong with me, you know, that my mind, my thought life is unmanageable. That I can't put a few thoughts together and come up with a cohesive idea. That I start off on a thought, and I go with that thought for a minute, and then that thought leads me somewhere else, and then pretty soon I'm starting to argue back and, well, I'm not sure about that thought, and then I'm going to the other thought, and then I decide I don't know what I'm doing at all, and all I can do is get high. Because it gives me some relief. My thought life is unmanageable. And the things that I do in my life out in the world are sequels to my thoughts. You know, if an architect wants to build a building, he has to have the building in his mind first. He has a vision in his mind. And then he puts the vision down on paper, and then he gives it to the contractor, and the contractor gives it to the builders. You know, kind of work I do, you know, I've got to have a story in my mind first. And then I can put it down in the paper, and I can put some music to it, you know. But it's got to be here first. All the work is done up here. And this is where my problem is. I can't think to good purpose. So to discover that I make all these problems myself was huge for me. You know, that I created the disasters. The only way I can do that is by talking to that power. To actually develop a relationship with that power, conscious contact. If I see a guy at a party and I want to do some business with him, I have to go talk to him. He can't read my mind. And it's the same with this business of talking to a power greater than me. And it all sounds a little cornball to me. It really does. It sounds corny. You know, and this whole religion thing, and I think, well, gee, I don't know, Marx said it's the opiate of the masses, and it's a superstition, and geez, all the wars are caused over religion. That couldn't make any sense. See, these are preconceived ideas that I bring. These ideas I brought since I was a kid, you know. I've got lots of them. It's my problem. So the step tells me I have to have an open mind. The open mind is to let go of those preconceived ideas, to not use them, to do not invoke them now in my life, right now, in the moment I'm in, to let my mind be open, to not have a preconceived idea, to not be judging what you might be telling me, like in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, to not sit there and keep score on the speaker and say, I agree with that point, I don't like that point, I kind of like this one, I'll remember that one for later, that one's no good, that one's funny, I don't believe, don't do that. That's not an open mind. That's what I'm being told. This is what I have to do. This is what I had to do. This is what I have to do today. And this is what I have to do in my life out there. I don't just do this at Alcoholics Anonymous. I do that as I live my life. When I'm talking to my wife and she's telling me something and I'm getting ready to just tell her that's really a stupid idea. That's not an open mind. That's not using a principle. That's not living by a principle. To use a principle, to use the principle of an open mind, I have to use it right then and there as my life is going on. Use it for my life. And when I do, I might hear what she has to say. And she might be telling me something good. She might be telling me something that could change our lives. I try these things. It's awkward in the beginning. It was hard for me. It was hard to come to a meeting and keep my mind present at the meeting. I had no mental discipline. I couldn't control my thinking. My thinking would just race everywhere. It's obsessive. This is a twofold disease. Allergy of the body and a mental obsession. And a lot of people think in Alcoholics Anonymous we're talking about an obsession for drugs and alcohol. We're not. We're talking about a mental obsession. Whatever passes across this mind, I can obsess on. Whatever subject it is. That I can practice this principle of an open mind. I can try it. And you know what happens when I try it? I get a little relief. I feel better afterwards. I talk to God. I talk to God in my mind. When I'm really in trouble, I talk to God out loud. I go in a room by myself. Because when I hear it come out, when I petition God, when I speak to God, when it comes out my mouth, when I'm sincere in that moment, I get to hold hands with God. I get to see the face of God. And I get relief. And it's interesting because there's sound psychological underpinnings to this. And the way this works, this disease that I have, and Thibault talks about this a lot, is powered by ego. Ego is the engine of destruction. It's the power plant. I get in my ego and it's all on. I touch it and it's all on. I start thinking I'm more than that, it's on. I start thinking I'm less than that, it's on. But I cannot be in ego and ask God to help me at the same time. Humility smashes ego. It's using a principle, using the principle of humility, that I can ask God to help me. Could you be with me now? Could you be with me here in the supermarket, at the bank, when I'm talking to my wife, when I'm talking to my friends, when I'm standing at the podium? God, could you be with me now? Could you guide me? Could you send me in the right direction? Would you do that for me? Could you help me? Because when I do that, I ain't running the show anymore. I can't. I can't ask for help and be the main man at the same time. Psychologically, it smashes ego. And what happens in all these efforts that I put in, the effort of using a principle, the effort of talking to God, the effort of an open mind, is I'm starting to build a new character. I'm building a new thought pattern, a new process to live a life by, and it takes this discipline. It's a mental discipline. It all starts in my mind. As a man thinketh in his heart, so he shall be. It all starts here. And when I do those things, I'm forcing unmanageability out of the picture. That I'm asking God to help me. I'm using the willpower that I have in step 3. That's the correct use of my willpower. I do have power. I drive my car, I shave, I make the decisions, I read this, I put my glasses on, I put them on. I do these things. I have some power. But is my power directed by God? Is my power directed by principle? Or is it directed by self? Is it directed by yesterday? Is it directed by Wayne? Is it directed by alcoholism? Because if it's directed by Wayne, it's directed by ego, it's directed by self, and I'm going to produce the same life I always had. So there's something for me to do. There's a performance, there's effort I got to put into this. When I hurl my life into recovery, when I hurl my life into God, when I associate my life with God, when I hurl my life into principles, then I get results on the plane of living. Here and there it starts to show up. I do things for people now. Another one of the birthday guys was talking about service, and that triangle of recovery. In Alcoholics Anonymous, one side says recovery, that's 12 steps as a way of life. Another side says fellowship, that's human help, that I need you. I need men in this room. These men help me in my life. I can't do this by myself. That's how I got to AA. I thought I could do everything by myself, and people say, Wayne, I don't think it's going to work by yourself. Oh, no, man, yeah, but you guys are weak. See, I can handle it, but I can't handle it. I can't handle it. I need your help. And that other side of that triangle is service, to do something for other people. To do it because it's the right thing to do. To do it because I can do it. And it makes my life better. It makes my life better in ways that I can't even articulate. To do something for somebody else for a change. I mean, I am so self-centered, so self-seeking, that I put myself at the top of my resentment list on my fourth step. I said, well, I resent me. And I couldn't figure it out. I asked somebody in AA, I said, well, how does that work? And he said, well, Wayne, why don't you not put yourself first for a change? Why don't you think about how you hurt other people first, not yourself? See, that's what I do. That's self. That's me going to me as the power. So to find out a little bit about alcoholism, to find out a little bit about ego, to be able to identify self as this character that I bring to Alcoholics Anonymous, this man, this personality that I created over the course of my life, to see that this is how these things fit into alcoholism, that alcoholism is a way of life. It's a way of seeing the world. It's a way of functioning. Drunk or sober. Sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. Still alcoholic. Still with alcoholism. But to see that there's a recovery program and there's a message of recovery in steps with a power greater than me. In a way of life and something for me to do, to relate myself to God, to thank God for today, for a good day today. I thank God for my bad days. I thank God for all those terrible things that happened to me. Those 30 years that I thought, geez, what a waste. I used to, this is ego. I'd walk around saying, oh man, I ruined my life. I ruined my life. Woe is me. And then I come to AA and I find out that that's the thing that's my most valuable asset. That I could help somebody else. Maybe somebody in my own line of work, and I could say to that guy the one thing that nobody else could say to him, that I know what you mean. I know how you feel. I did that too. I'm grateful today. I'm grateful to be part of this program of recovery. It's a worldwide fellowship. I go to these meetings all over the world, and I stay right in the center of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't go too far one way or the other. It produces a good life. I don't hide out in meetings, but I stay here. I stay here. And that's enough out of me.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. And if that shows up, the gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.